it's heartbreaking, like, seeing your parents like that. And I don't know if it's, like, survivor's guilt because, like, it's not like we got into a car crash, like, together, but being the one who's, like, living almost has, like, a sickening, like, feeling to it. Because, like, Liv had so many, like, hopes and dreams, and I wish, like, she could achieve them. Seeing my parents, it's just so sad because I know, like, they're struggling and there's nothing, like, I can do about it.
Welcome to A Place of Yes, a podcast about how I moved through my darkest hour. And for me, that was in channeling my grief into good. Welcome to the show. Hi, I'm Heather Straughter. Welcome to the show. Grief is never a straight path, and losing someone so young changes you forever. Today, I sit down with three people who knew and loved Olivia Allen deeply. Her mother, Mellissa, her sister, Sophia, and her best friend, Aubrey. Olivia lost her battle with leukemia on March 28th, 2024. And as we approach the 1-year mark of her passing, we wanted to have an open, honest conversation about what life has been like without her. Grief doesn't follow a timeline, and it doesn't look the same for everyone. In this episode, Mellissa, Sophia, and Aubrey share how they've navigated the last year, the unexpected challenges of losing someone so young, and the ways Olivia's presence is still felt in their lives. We also talk about how grief affects relationships between a mother and a daughter, between sisters, and between best friends. Whether you've experienced loss yourself or want to better understand what grief really looks like, this conversation is a powerful reminder that love doesn't end when someone is gone. I am super excited today. We are doing something very different. As you can tell by the setup of this, we are having a conversation with a previous guest and a friend of mine, Olivia Allen. And for those of you who've been listening to the show, you know Mellissa is Olivia Allen's mom. She was on in the first season, and we talked. It was actually one of our most powerful episodes, and I think because the story just touched so many people. And Mellissa and I've we kept in touch, and we share child loss, and we share what that is. And I've always said you hate when people join this club. It's like the worst club to join. But there's something selfishly comforting when someone you know is in it with you. And Mellissa is one of those people for me. We both talked about this for quite some time and thought it would be just a really great conversation to invite her daughter, Sophia, onto the show, and also almost like her other daughter, Aubrey. So Aubrey was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys were best friends since you were like 2 or something, right? Or younger,
Yeah.
like very young.
We're very young.
Very young. So we thought it would just be a great conversation to talk about the emotions, the feelings, and a recurring concept sort of in the show is a little bit like sometimes you lose the same person. Like you're all here because you lost Liv, but that doesn't mean the way you grieve or the way you feel or the way you think is the same. It's just hard. So we thought we would have like that conversation. I would love each of you to sort of just give a little introduction about yourselves and where you sort of are in this sort of, I don't know, we always call it the grief journey, but like where you kind of are. And then we can just start talking about the things. So Mellissa, I'll start with you.
So I'm Mellissa, I'm Liv's mom, and I have known Heather for quite some time, and we had a podcast, I want to say it was the end of August, and now, and where I'm at, I would like to say that if I could say I'm in a better spot, I may be. There are really difficult days and days where I would certainly text Heather and say that I want to curl up in a fetal position and fade away. And but I also have spent a lot of time and effort really focusing in on what is present and being mindful, most importantly, of my other daughter, Sophia, and what her needs are. And the therapy route for me has been incredible, powerful, honestly.
I'm Olivia's sister, Sophia. I would say like where I'm at right now is kind of like just going through like the motions of like life and trying to like do my best in school, in social settings, because obviously like my friends don't understand the situation. So I do go to therapy once a week, and that's kind of my like time to like let it out. When I'm not there, I just like try to like keep it together for everyone else almost, and myself, because I think if I was like a mess, I wouldn't be able to like succeed.
I'm Aubrey, one of Liv's best friends since we were little. For me, it's kind of the same. It's like good and bad days. And I also go to therapy, which helps a lot. My mom thinks I should go more. A lot of it for me is like the memories, and like sometimes I'll be reminded of Liv. It'll make me really happy. I'll like share with my friends even if they didn't even know Liv. But other times it could really take a toll on me. When I was at school, it was like the day before my formal. It was a year before that. I got like a memory on Snapchat, and it was like a photo of Liv and I like cried until like 4 a.m. I had to go the next morning to Target and get like eye patches because my eyes are so swollen. So it's like keeping it together sometimes and also like letting myself
Let it go when you need to. Yeah. You do have to let yourselves feel, right? Like you have to like live in those moments. Sometimes you feel alone, right? Like you feel like you are the only person feeling these things. And while other people can't feel exactly the same things, sometimes they are similar. I think that's that constant struggle of like, where do we find ourselves where we can keep it together for ourselves, let us feel when we want to feel, but then also how do we pull back? Like how do we, or like bring ourselves back? One of my guests earlier this season talked about, and I want to talk to you a little bit, Sophia. Selfishly, it's like front of mind for me. Losing a child is always thought of as like the biggest loss. And it's just heartbreaking and it's horrible. And I think so much focus is on us. I honestly didn't think about this from any other perspective until recently. But the sibling perspective, it's gotta be difficult, right? Because you really did grow up together. You're close in age. You look similar. Like, do you get called Liv?
Pretty much like all the time. I would have to say 1 to 2 times a day. Like a teacher or a friend is like lit. They like almost say it and they're like Soph. And then it's awkward because they're awkward. And I'm like, it's really okay.
So she lost the battle 9 months ago. Such a courageous battle. And honestly, I guess this is a question for you guys too. Like, did you think she was going to lose the battle or did you think she was going to just beat it?
I can like confidently say like I did not like ever expect that. Even when I was talking to Aubrey and my mom in the last few days, like it really didn't hit me. I was like, how could that happen? And when I like talk about her, it was mostly about the fact if she didn't like not have hair, you wouldn't see her as the girl with cancer because she never wanted that to be like who she was. She was the girl who was doing backflips and laughing and smiling.
Yeah, I never thought that she would lose her battle with cancer. Like, even the last month when she was really sick, I had no doubt that she would pass away from cancer. Even when she first got diagnosed, I didn't know all the obstacles she would face, but I still thought, like, oh, she'd be okay in, like, 6 months.
And I think that was really common. And we talked about this the first time, but even Ethan, who was at school and, wasn't necessarily, like he kind of kept in the loop, like just, from social media and all the things. But when I had talked to Kelly Height in March and she had called me and Brian and I were away and was like, just, hey, FYI, like, Liv's not doing great. And I was kind of like, oh, like I didn't see it coming. And then I remember telling Ethan and he was like, wait, what? She's going to die? Like just it never sunk in. And I think part of that is who she was and how she fought. But part of that is also, I think, kind of why we wanted to have some of this conversation because you don't expect an 18-year-old to die. You don't expect you don't expect your best friend. You expect to still have her you expect to be home for winter break and hooping it up.
Yeah, we were literally texting. Like, I went to Montreal New Year's Eve, and I like called Mellissa afterwards, and it just was like weird. I want to do that with Olivia. Yeah, it's different.
I was talking to this one person about like the timing, and I was like, I just never expected her to die. Like, I just didn't think that could ever be like a possibility. And like this person was like, you really didn't like think that? Cancer. It's cancer. And I was like, no, like you thought that? Just like it took me back. I was like, I didn't see her like that.
Yeah.
And even though she was my older sister, she was like my baby sister. Like I took care of her and I never thought once she was going to be gone.
What do you miss most about her? Which is a loaded question because depending on the moment, it could probably be a million different things.
Definitely like having someone to talk to because there's like a million people in the world, but you want your sister like for advice. I'm like always calling my friends, but like sometimes you just want like your sister for like boyfriend advice. And sometimes I feel like I'm like talking to a wall because I don't know who's going to tell me the right thing. And my sister was pretty good at that.
Always telling you the right thing.
Yeah.
There was a guest we had on the show and she talked about when she lost her sister, she felt like she lost her childhood. And I thought that was so like powerful. When she said that, I thought of that for Ethan. And Ethan was only 5 when Jake died, but it impacted his entire childhood. And I feel like, does that resonate with you? Like, does that?
Like a reoccurring theme in like therapy. We talk about it all the time. Yeah.
2 things that you have brought to my attention, and Chuck and I we've thought a lot and talked a lot about our loss as parents. He has centered me numerous times to say, we don't know what it's like to lose a sister or a brother, and being able to like step back and see it from her perspective. And Sophia and I had a really deep conversation about a month ago, and boy, it hit me. I not only lost my sister, but I lost my family. Like I lost, in a way, part of you and Dad, and one of the other things she had said is, I'm trying to preserve what I have left. That is what stuck with me and my work also with Kelly, my therapist, because we have this left. And I can tell you that there are many, many days that I don't want to get out of bed, and she has shared. The hardest thing that you've said to me was, I know that you don't want to get out of bed, and you get out of bed for me. And so knowing that and really trying to show up every day is exhausting. It's overwhelming, just downright painful.
Like what we were saying before is I was so wrapped up in like my loss for so long and like not talking about it with people, because the world was also different. Like when Jake died, like there wasn't all the social media and there wasn't the groups and there wasn't podcasts. Like, it's sort of like I just dealt with it on my own, good, bad, or indifferent. But I do think that sibling piece is huge. And we were talking before about like, I suspected that people called you Liv often. I wasn't necessarily thinking once or twice a day, but that's a lot. And that's kind of like a weird pressure or weight. I don't know what the right word is.
A lot of people wouldn't know this song, but there's this song that just came out. The lyrics are like, do I look like him? And it almost, to me, like, I'm like basically my sister's twin. My Face ID works on her phone.
Oh, really?
Her Face ID works on me.
Do you still like check her phone? Like,
yeah,
you have it? Yeah,
I do, yeah. I feel like part of me is like, people see that I'm her kind of in a way. Like, they see her and me, I guess.
So Aubrey, I think it connects with you too, though, this idea of like the loss. Do you feel like you've lost your childhood too? Like, because I just know from like pictures and thoughts, right? Like you guys were together all the time. And
yeah, it does feel like that. And it still like feels like that going forward. Because I know I'm 19 now, but like I still feel like this is my childhood. These are the years I still would be with Liv. I feel like I'm missing like a part of it because like she's gone. Even going forward now, like every time I'm home for winter break and summer, like it just doesn't like feel the same.
You had plans, just like we had like future. We always thought about the future. You and Liv had wanted to create a business together, Aaron and I.
Really?
They were going to build houses together. And one of the things that Aubrey texted me the other night, and I felt it. I feel it when you're around certain people. It's almost like you still have it. When I'm near you, I feel like I have a little piece of Liv, and that spoke to me. And the other piece is you saying how we're living it every day, but when you separate yourself and you come back to it, and it hits you that hard that you're one of the most important people in your life are not here, like you relive it, and no one else feels the same way. And I'm not going to speak on your behalf, but I would say that both of you in different situations feel angry.
Yeah. I would say I feel angry a lot.
I want to ask you though, Aubrey, like what's it like being at school with people who don't know her?
Yeah.
Like, is that hard? Or
It definitely is hard. I'm really thankful and grateful for that. Olivia got to visit me a few times.
Oh, okay.
So my friends did know who she was, my close friends. And like part of me is like really thankful for that because they kind of like know who she is. Even after, like, when Liv died, people still didn't fully understand, like, to the extent we were friends. Like, oh, someone in your high school died. But, like, they didn't really know, some people, how much that affected me. And a lot of people that were higher up than me, like, watched over me, coaches, like, a lot of people, they kind of, like, didn't really understand that at first, which I struggled with because, like, I didn't want to, like, just explain to people.
Yeah.
But, like, I obviously had to because they wouldn't understand. My friends, like when I am at school, because they're able to like meet her and now they do know the level that we were so close with, I'm really like thankful that they understand a little part of it because like I remember when I went home when Liv was really sick, I remember I came home and they like folded my laundry for me and like they made me a little basket and like I have flowers on my desk for my friends. Those little things like I was so grateful for. Separating school from here is hard.
Do you feel like you have like two lives kind of? Or?
Yeah. Because when I come home, it's just like everything reminds me, like things in my room, things in my kitchen, people, my basement.
I don't know if we should go towards like, because I want to touch on that like anger piece, but I also want to touch on the memories piece because I feel like what you just said, memories are hard sometimes, right? Like, and I think you both kind of touched on it a little bit. Like sometimes the memories make you super happy and sometimes they can just like rip you apart. How do you balance that?
Oh, I don't think I'm like great at balancing it yet
Yeah.
because I like definitely struggle with like the memories part. Like in therapy, they call it like secondary losses. So like in the future too, but also in the past. Like, Mom, you can like touch on the secondary losses too. But
Weddings,
yeah.
graduation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the things you.
So it's almost like these good memories I have, I'm like almost like thinking of them in a bad way essentially because I'm like, I don't have them anymore. I don't know, driving to school every morning and getting Dunkin' and Starbucks. That was such a good memory. And so every time I drive to Starbucks, I'm like, ugh, it's hard to like enjoy the good memories right now because I'm just like,
You're missing them too
I'll
much.
have, yeah.
And that ties right into the anger piece, right? Like you're probably mad about it.
Yeah, I am. I haven't been like as angry as I feel like I could be. And I think that's because my sister used to tell me I have anger issues. I have tried to keep my cool, trying to stay away from that anger piece a little bit because I don't want to prove her right.
Do you hear a like voice in your head?
Yeah.
One of your many strengths is compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
Right. And recognizing that, yes, I can feel this way, but I also at the same time, we've talked about this, like you have grief and joy at the same time. Like, how do we exist in this world that I'm forced to go, like get up and go to school every day?
Yeah.
She didn't have that opportunity. You can talk a little bit about this, to stop and just let it in. So she quickly had from day one of diagnosis to now to adjust to that. I have to work in this way of being able to function, but also being mindful that these feelings do exist. And at some point I have to attend to them.
I wouldn't say like this is like what you should do when it comes to like coping. But when Liv passed away, that was like one of my big moments where I was like, this is probably not good for my like grief journey. But I had an Italy trip planned with like my school. We had a day in between. Liv passed away on Thursday and I had to be on that flight on Friday. And I saw like the way my mom was acting and it just like broke my heart. And I was like, I have to get on that plane. Like I have to like escape because of that. I haven't learned to sit with my feelings. She passed away right before break. That idea of sitting there and thinking about like my dead sister for 2 weeks.
Yes. And watching your
really scared
parents
me.
deal with their dead child. Yeah. I mean, not the same, but sort of the same. So Jake died on a Wednesday. We walked Ethan to Lake Avenue School Thursday morning and he went to kindergarten because I didn't know what to do with him. And I didn't think a 5-year-old should be seeing the mess that we were. And it's still, sometimes I'm like, was that the right decision? Was it not the right decision? He was kind of like, my brother died and now I'm at school. Like, I mean, it was, but you don't know what to do. And I would say that it was the right thing for you to do, right? Like you make the best decisions you can with the information and ability you have at that time. And in a weird way, because I remember we talked through some of that and it was sort of helpful for you, I think, right? Because
We could really be ugly.
yeah, like, because it is ugly, you know, and that's all I could think about was that I didn't want my son to see me, like I didn't want Ethan to see his mom in that really raw, like days after that I can still picture them like they were yesterday. They were horrible. In a weird way, you did your parents a gift, you know, also by like self-preservation for you, but also for them because it's just ugly.
That's like definitely like the hardest thing I have to say. Like it's heartbreaking like seeing your parents like that. And I don't know if it's like survivor's guilt because like it's not like we got into a car crash like together, but being the one who's like living almost has like a sickening like feeling to it because like Liv had so many like hopes and dreams and I wish like she could achieve them. Seeing my parents, it's just so sad because I know like they're struggling and there's nothing like I can do about it.
Do people ask you a lot like, how's your mom doing? Like, do they put that on you sometimes?
Yeah, it's like even when Liv was diagnosed, I was angry then. I would say more angry. It was always about like my sister and my mom at school every day, multiple times a day. And I like could not deal with it. I was like, what about like, you see me? I'm like here in a Regents exam, like 2 weeks after my sister like got diagnosed with cancer. And I'm like, I'm not okay too. Every time I see someone, it's never, how are you doing? Maybe a few times if people are like there. But how's your mom doing? She okay? Even if I'm like sitting with someone at dinner who's like trying to hang out with me, how's your mom doing?
Yeah. I think what you're saying and what you are, like what you're talking about is so real. And I think people have good intentions, but they don't do the right thing sometimes,
Mhm.
right? And I had a guest, and that was her whole thing. She wrote a book about like always the siblings, the name of the book. And
I have that.
do you have it? Okay, so
Yeah.
she was a guest on the show. She talked about that kind of thing all the time, about there is no space. Like when her brother died, she was struggling and she didn't know what to do. So she went to like the bookstore and went to the grief section, and there was child loss and parent loss and everything, like dealing with suicide, like all of these things. But there wasn't one book for what to do when your sibling died.
I don't think anyone wants to talk about it, especially like online. You just don't really
It just
see
doesn't. And that's why she wrote her
Yeah.
book, was because she was like, it didn't exist. So I have to write it.
I'm assuming the reason people don't ask me like how I'm doing is because it's like scary and uncomfortable. Like I think they might be scared I might like break down in tears or something, but people on the outside could definitely like do better in those like situations, because I can say for myself, like I like talking about my sister. Like I don't want to like keep her away. I like talking about my feelings, because if I don't, I'm crying in my car probably.
I think a lot about the sibling and the friendship piece now more than ever. And being that I've been an employee in a school district working with a lot of youth over the years, and they are the forgotten piece. And honestly, even fathers are.
Yeah.
100%.
We were out to
Yeah.
dinner when we were in Florida, and it was all well intended, but Chuck is supposed to be very strong, and I can be vulnerable, I can be weak, and it's almost accepting. And I think we do have to do a better job to acknowledge that there was this amazing connection with her best friends, and she had an amazing relationship with her sister, and Sophia's feelings still exist. And I think that's the biggest piece about counseling that's been helpful, and you can probably add to this, is that you do matter in this unit of 4, now 3, and your feelings need to be shared, and a big piece of not pushing it down, and we're working through that.
On that same topic, sort of, Aubrey, do you feel like, especially when you're at school, do people check in on you, or do you feel like it's just...
My close friends do check in on me sometimes. Some of like my distant friends, like my teammates who necessarily I'm not that close with, I think maybe it could be more just like an uncomfortable thing. Or they're more like asking about like who she was, what happened. Like I said, like people don't really understand like the relationship
close
we
you are.
had.
Yeah.
And they always just want to know like her story. Like she's 18 years old and she died of cancer. Like if you look at her, she's beautiful, athletic,
Yep.
gorgeous. Like she just looks like
Doesn't make sense.
it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. And people more want to hear about that, because sometimes I like talking about her, so it makes me happy.
Yeah.
The challenge for you, though, is to see how everyone is moving on. And for Aubrey and Sophia in particular, we talk about this a lot, is they're not. They're trying to evolve and grow it, and it hurts you. And you more so than Sophia.
Like that idea that like life goes on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's hard, right? Like,
Yeah. That's what I get like angry at.
yeah.
Whatever Thanksgiving was, we were driving to Vermont and I got into like a screaming fight, not screaming, but fight with my mom and dad. And it was the 5 of us in the car. My mom let me sit in the front because I was sad. And I was just like yelling at them. And I was just saying like, I hate it. Like, I hate being home. Like, my family, like, they obviously all like Liv was like their fourth child too. My mom sometimes is scared to like ask me if I'm okay and stuff, I think. And then I got like angry because she wasn't asking me, or they weren't doing anything or weren't mentioning it. And so I got mad at them for like not saying anything. And the whole hour car ride was me like yelling about that.
I so get it, right? Like you want people to ask because you want to talk about it. And sometimes it's hard to talk about it. It does suck because life goes on and your life is going to go on and you're going to do all the things that you're going to set out to do. And it's like it just stops. And I have always lived in this fear that like, I can't let that happen, right? Like you can't let that happen. So you have to find the way of like, keep talking, like saying, you want to keep that memory alive. And there's nothing scarier to me than the idea of someone like not knowing.
Yeah.
It's such a heartbreaking feeling. You kind of touched on it, that like secondary losses and all the things that she should be a part of that she's not. Sometimes time makes that easier, but sometimes it doesn't.
One thing that will definitely hit me, obviously, like Liv wasn't able to graduate because of her stroke. But I think like when I walk across the stage, I think that will be like a hard moment for me.
I just think so much about senior year, and we've talked about this. Like it was like your senior year in high school, right? Like the one part, like that summer and that I just think of the loss that like you had as a friend, you know, different than the loss of like a family member at such a pivotal age. It's such an age where like, you know, everyone's like, you graduate high school, the world's your oyster, you're going to college, the best
Yeah.
years. Like, does that just, what is that? Is it anger? Is it sad? Is it all of the above? Is it just?
Definitely all of the above. That summer going into my freshman year was like the worst summer. Like I hated that summer. Remember when Liv like wasn't at graduation because of the stroke? Like her name's first in the alphabet. And like some people stood up and I remember being so angry that like everyone wasn't standing up. It made me so mad. I don't know, like that summer just like sucked because Olivia wasn't there for any of it. And like people at school now, like my college friends will be like, oh my God, like I miss summer going to my freshman year. That was the best summer of my life. And I just can't relate to them.
And they were planning on going to Costa Rica for their senior trip. You went and just
Was that hard?
Yeah, because I just knew Olivia was going to be so sad not there.
Yeah, I can say like the vacation part of it, like even I felt guilty like going on vacations because like I knew my sister was like at home or at the hospital. It's not a great feeling.
but she would want you both to
Yeah.
enjoy, anyone to enjoy.
Yeah.
You're not at a year yet. Are you guys, what do you?
March 28th will be a year.
Yeah. I always struggled with this because, right, like a year ago you can remember. Like she was still alive. So you can say like a year ago, blah, 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 like we did this or we did that. And then once you hit that 1 year mark, those go away.
I love Christmas, and selfishly, like I wanted Christmas to be like the best thing ever, as every like 16-year-old would say. It didn't hit me as hard as the New Year did. I was like, it's a new year. This is a year my sister has not lived in, and that hit me really, really hard. So I do think about, a year ago today, Liv and I were laughing. I saw this video on Snapchat of, she didn't have her wig on, and she was just laughing like crazy, and I was like, ugh. Nothing hits me more than the fact that it's 2025 and like my sister's not here.
Those are the things, right? Like I had a car that Jake was in, right? Like I used to drive a Volvo. And when we got rid of the Volvo and I got my Jeep, I totally broke down. Like I was like, I flipped out, like kind of, I screamed at Brian, I can't believe you got me this car. I don't want this car. Like Jake's never been in this car. Like, what are you talking about? It's like those moments and you never kind of like, I think that we are conditioned to think about like the birthdays and the anniversaries and the Christmas and stuff, but you don't always know when these other moments are gonna come up. And that's interesting, right? Like it's like she's never been in 2025. That sucks.
Yeah, a lot of people don't talk about it.
I found the last few times for us, it's been not the actual, like the event leading up because you're focused on trying to keep it together. And then you keep it together. And then the next day and the following few days, it is an absolute mess. And that's what I've noticed in the last couple of times that we've had longer breaks for Sophia and myself is you put this face on and then you crash. And I wasn't anticipating that.
I feel like that too, because I think a lot of people will always reach out to you when it's like, I don't know about you guys, but like when it's Liv's birthday, when it's 9 months since she died, when it's Christmas. I get sad those days, but like I just get sad random days.
Right.
And people don't understand that. I think for a lot of people, they are really sad on the big days, but people don't understand that you're just sad on normal random days.
I wake up thinking about it and I go to bed thinking about it. It's all consuming. And as a mom, the toll that it takes on me every single day it's just so intense and so painful. And I can only imagine Sophia feeling and Aubrey feeling the same way, but not having an outlet, which is why I think even just having this conversation and hearing what you guys have to say is important.
I want to ask you, Aubrey, because you had mentioned like talk about like the business or the houses or like the plans.
We had crazy dreams. We wanted a house in Colombia. I don't even know why. Then we wanted to be the best rock climbers in the world and have a house when we were older with a shared rock climbing wall. I'll do business law and she's going to do, what did she want to do, like criminal law? She want to do criminal law and then we're going to have a law firm together, like O&A's law firm or something. We just had a lot of crazy dreams and we definitely pushed each other. I'm a very outgoing person and so is she, but like she made me like do even more things. Like she would always say yes.
One of the things that she would say about you is that you also brought out a different side of her too. You guys were just funny. If you saw Liv, you saw Aubrey. And if you saw Aubrey, you knew Liv was trailing behind. I struggle a lot with Sophia and Aubrey in particular because of all of the plans that they had. And I'm so grateful for Aubrey and her family because Sophia has a piece of that still in a way. And it is extension. It's different, obviously, and she would love to have her sister. But this allows her to have some sort of connection, like continuing bond, if you will, or that is hard to come by. So Liv wanted to have a sleepover at the hospital. The last month was tough. I knew Cindy knew without really coming out and saying. And Aubrey did not know.
No, I don't.
And we had a sleepover, and just how patient and like attentive, like Liv was so tired, and
I know.
you were just
You
so
can tell.
good, and how important that made her feel in that moment. It was just so heartfelt and amazing.
And that was right before. And you didn't, like, you wouldn't have.
Because I would text her, and Liv's not the best texter in the world, but I remember she like just texted me something about how she wasn't feeling good. That's like kind of it. It was just like a rough patch.
And she wouldn't really say that too much.
She would never say that. She'd be
So-
like, oh, it's hard, but it's fine. I'm getting through it. I'll be good in a week. And she believed it. And it did happen a lot. She did get better.
Yeah.
Like,
Which is sort of why you always kind of just assumed she would continue to.
it almost makes me wish she was like a little bit more like vulnerable, because I felt like the last like month that she was alive, you didn't think anything of it. I didn't think anything of it. If I knew like what was going to happen, I think I would have probably visited a little bit more. The hospital is 50 minutes away, and I was juggling school and sports, and it was really hard to go. And the hospital, if you know, it's
Yeah.
not fun to be in it. For like my own sake, I just had to stop going because it was so like emotionally draining. But I think like if we're talking about emotions, like I have a lot of guilt about that because I was so clueless. I mean, even up until the last days, I just think about how I wasn't there, and like that sleepover that you're talking about, like I didn't think anything of that.
But even when you
Yeah.
know you did everything you should, you still can have
Yeah.
that feeling, right? Like, what should I have done, or could I have done, or those are hard, real feelings. Like, I mean, I know I have them. You probably have them
Yeah.
too. Like,
Yeah. I feel like sometimes I have guilt because when she was sick senior year and she didn't know she had cancer, we had extended lunch and we'd always go to my house and watch a movie. Maybe it's not even the middle of the day. It's like 11:30. So I kind of only woke up like 3 hours ago, and she'd be asleep on the couch. And it's just so unlike Olivia. I would always say to her, like, what's wrong? Like,
wake up.
wake up, like, have things to do. It was our prom, and Olivia fell asleep on the couch at the party. She was asleep on the couch. Like, that's my first moment. I was like, this is weird. And I remember I told my mom, and I was talking with our other friends. I was like, guys, what? Like, why is she
So was that
asleep?
was right before? That was May, right? So right before. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's maybe because she doesn't have a boy there. Like, she's just bored. Like, there's no boy to talk to.
You're like, but no.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. And I guess I have guilt because I would always just say to her, like, come on, let's go do this.
Well, it's almost like you get annoyed by it or something.
And she would always be like, I'm so tired. Like, I want to sleep. And I'd be like, we have plans, Olivia. And she'd be the one that would be dragging me there, like,
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
I could say the same thing. I was like, what the heck are you doing? Like, get up. It's your senior year. Like, why are you here?
It's like you said, you just react to that moment, but you don't see it, you know? And you can't have done anything different because you didn't know any different, right? Doesn't always make it easier, but it's true. For me, it's really important that I feel like Jake is around, right? Like, even all these years, like, I feel like I talk about him. Like, in the beginning, I would always see this like cardinal, like, no matter where I was. And then I came home one day and I was like, I'm being stalked by like a cardinal. This is crazy. And then I was kind of like, well, hey, maybe it's Jake. Like, it kind of just made me feel better. Do you guys see her as anything?
I have had like a lot of like tough moments, and every time I've like seen this specific like yellow butterfly. I don't know, it's like everywhere.
I actually saw a yellow butterfly too, and I've seen it a few times. Actually, when I was just in Mexico 3 days ago, I saw a yellow butterfly. And right before that, I was talking to my mom about Olivia. Or I was like, Mom, if Olivia was here, would she be here with us? It's like, of course she would. And then I saw that butterfly, rainbows, and the sunset the day that she died. I don't know what was going in my mind, but I went to field hockey practice that night. And that sunset that night was so beautiful.
I remember that photo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think rainbows because I had like a spring game, and my whole freshman year I scored once. Like, I'm not a big scorer even though I'm a forward. I worked really hard in the spring season because it like distracted me from Olivia. And then that game I scored 2 goals, and then there was a double rainbow. And it like made me think of Olivia.
So I think this was around the same time. I don't know if it was the same day. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mom. But we were driving to a field hockey tournament. We saw the double rainbow when we walked out of
One of
the same day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And numerous people started like capturing the photos from different locations and sending it. It was like this. It was live like live. Like,
Wasn't someone like in the Caribbean. And there's a double rainbow.
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
One of the things that I would like Sophia to talk about, and we've talked about not being like super religious, but like having, I guess, faith or whatever. And Sophia it really inspired me. It was, about 6 weeks ago, she texted me and she said, I'm going to stop. I'm going to go to the church. And she went to light a candle, and she's gone now a number of times. And what I learned over the holiday break was not only was she lighting a candle, but she was allowing herself, I guess, the moment to let it out. And I'm so grateful that she did that.
It was so weird. I went past the church and it was like something was like pulling me there. I was like, I have to turn around. I'm very anxious. So I'm like if I don't turn around, like I'm going to die or something. Like I went in there and there's like one other person and I was just like, I do not cry a lot. I'm sure like people who don't even really know her have cried more than I have over her. And I just like let it out and I just could not stop. And like ever since I've gone back multiple times. I've talked to a few people. I haven't even told you this, Mom, but my friend's mom sees, what is it called? The thing that tells you like the signs.
Medium?
I've been thinking about going, but when it was like first suggested to me in the summer, I was like, I don't want to know, like that I'm not ready for it. But like I think that's like something I definitely want to see.
One of the things that people take away from even our new foundation and the lives that she has touched while she was here is that you still have to have hope. Like you still have to work really hard and you still have to be a good person. And even though difficult things happen, you have to work with it. And I recently said to Sophia, like, this is going to be one of the hardest things you've ever had to face, but it's not going to be the only thing. What I have seen you be able to do through this journey is come not necessarily fully out the other side yet, and we have a long way to go, but to see herself through this and know that she can, without her sister, achieve all of those things. We had a lot of conversation about what does family look like and redefining like our friendships and things like that. And I think a lot about how she has grown, and I feel like I'm talking like you're right here. You have grown into such a mature and wise, intuitive person as a result. And I think that's such a positive outcome. Her experience is going to make her an even better individual.
I couldn't agree more. And I would say it for both of you, like, right? Like these horrible things happen. It's not living a life wishing it didn't happen. It's taking it and turning it into something. And you guys are going out in the world and you are bringing her spirit and you are learning from it and you are being kinder, more compassionate people. And not that you weren't kind and compassionate to start, but it impacts you. And it's something that you guys will always have close to your heart. You wish you didn't have it. You know, I always say, I wish Jake was still here and I was not as an enlightened of a person. You guys will go through your lives with her beside you and with this.
I feel like at school, something because of Liv's loss, I don't fully understand yet, but like I understand what it's like to lose somebody. I was in Europe with my friends and I saw on social media this kid I had no idea. He's in the lacrosse team at Lehigh, and he was posting about someone who died, like one of his really close, like best friends. I've literally never met the kid, and I slid up at the table, like typing this long message to him saying, like, "Hi, this might sound weird, blah blah blah. I'm Aubrey. My best friend like just passed away 5 months ago. I just want to reach out and tell you that like if you ever need someone to talk to, like." I understand, and like I'm still going through what it feels like to lose somebody, but we can always talk about it. And he like responded back and was like, you have no idea like how much this means to me. Like I didn't think that people would care this much.
I mean, I think that's exactly it. That's the perfect story for what we just said. And before, you probably wouldn't even have thought twice about it. You just be like, oh, this is so sad, poor kid, or like whatever.
Yeah.
I know it's only been 9 months, but if you could offer any words to others listening to us today, like what would it be? What would you want them to take away from your experience?
I would say like the first thing is taking something like good out of like a terrible situation, like the Live Like Live Foundation. What we did with the kids at the hospital, the Christmas gifts for everyone at the Melody Center. Like there's two options. You can like rot in bed and be sad and angry, or you can make good out of a terrible situation. And I think all of us have chose the second option. I think about my future all the time, and my friends say it too. They're like, you're so inspiring. And it's like, if I have to go through this crappy situation, like I want people to know that I'm there for them and that I'm trying to make the world a better place.
Yeah, I would agree. Make something positive out of a negative. Like know that grief obviously isn't linear, but having your people, leaning on them and having them lean on you will help you get through it.
I've been trying to be a little bit more open with being honest, because I will show up and I will get the job done, but I'm crumbling inside, and you do have to acknowledge that. And if you don't, and this is, I would say, one of the things that I've learned, through therapy and seeing you go through therapy, the more you push it down, right? The harder it is going to be for your future self. And for me, as your mom, what I've said to you is I'm more worried about your future self, right? And being a functional adult emotionally, physically, socially. And so how do we do that? And I think you both are doing that, being agreeable to even counseling and sitting here and having these
I
conversations.
mean, the fact that you come here and have this conversation, I think, is remarkable.
We started the Live Like Live Foundation. Sophia is my vice president. Aubrey is the secretary, treasurer, or something. We haven't decided yet. I mean, on paper it is. There was very few teenagers in the hospital, and a lot of efforts and attention are placed on the young kids and trying to make it as joyful and positive, if you will, in that environment. And when Liv was feeling well, our intent was together as a family, as a group, to create some sort of foundation to give back. We really wanted to target the teenagers, but also after the loss is what happens to the siblings, like what's left. We recognized now that there needs to be attention placed on what's left. There's a lot of talk, like while you're in that cancer journey, of making the best moments. Sometimes you're lucky enough to have those moments, but in a lot of cases, you're not. This is left. And so that's our mission, is to try to offer opportunities for siblings to create memories, but also at the same time recognize that this loss does exist, and how can we help them in that way. To see a smile on your child's face, not being able to get out of the bed, like, people have no idea the difference that made for her. And for me as a parent sitting next to her in the hospital, that's what we're doing. We've already done a few things you can share.
Like I mentioned it earlier, but the gifts for the kids at the Melody Center, I spent hours and hours shopping, which I didn't mind. I made these like gift baskets for the teenagers specifically. Everyone got gifts, but for the older girls, they got this like really cute aesthetic bag that I wanted, a bunch of makeup, and it was like expensive makeup. And like, I don't want to talk about money, but like sometimes you're handed a lot of things during like this cancer journey that they sit in the your like storage room. But I didn't want
Like a t-shirt you'll never wear.
Yeah.
Or like a,
Exactly. I didn't want that for them. I wanted like that they would want, I would want, like that excited them. So I spent like a lot of time thinking about what they would appreciate. And I think we can all say like those girls were really happy.
Yeah.
On top of that, we did like get gifts for all the siblings that like we knew of, that we were told about. There was a whole family that got gifts. And
Thank you for being here. Like, thank you for opening up. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for bringing them. Thank you for coming back. And I'd love to have you back anytime. Like, I think you guys are really offering to whoever listens like a real service.
Thank you for having us. I enjoy it. I think it's helpful to talk about it.
yeah.
Thank you for listening to A Place of Yes. Please follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you really like this episode, please share it with a friend. It would make a world of difference if we could just reach more people and share the work that we do and the stories we want to tell. Thank you so much for watching.